All right. Sorry about that, guys. Hey, how's it going? Daredevil Dave and me and Son of Crown Slayer. All right. I don't know if you guys stuck around. I know I'm running late today, guys, by about 5 minutes. I apologize. We had a storm roll through our region here in Ottawa. While my house did fine for electricity and things like that, my wife and kids' place that they're living in right now did not. So I had to take a quick venture over there. And no, by the time I got there, the power was back on. I had to get back here in time, and so I made the call, and my time estimate was off by 5 minutes. Sorry about that. So, hello, Son of Crown Slayer. Hello, Daredevil Dave. Hello, anyone else that is watching the replay today. Welcome to the new live format here across the Old Crow, here in Crow Country. We are going to try and dial things in on the channel this year, just because progress and personal development is important, right? And the channel was a experiment for the first year, but now it's something. So now I've got to treat it like any other project and refine it the best I can by learning things, right? So first thing I was learning is lives are the crapshoot of a channel always, right? Like you never know who's showing up, you never know who's watching the replay, and you never know where it's going to go when you have guests and things like that, right? So I decided my lives needed a little bit more direction, and why I started this channel was to talk about GI Joe mainly, not just classified or toy collecting, but specifically just the nostalgia effect of GI Joe and our memories with it, and what it is to grow up with those memories and then face the realities of the world or whatever, the modernization that is now being applied to GI Joe, and just compare where they were to where they are now and things like that. So I thought it would be more fun to do that in the way we were first introduced to GI Joe, which was 1982, the OG 13. We most of us were introduced to it that way. Now that's not the first iteration of GI Joe, of course. Um, the first iteration of GI Joe being those big, what were they, 12-inch Barbie slappers, whatever they were, with the kung fu action grip and the velvet hair. I wasn't going to collect those. But anyways, in 82, we got introduced to 13 3 3/4 figures who had these new types of points of articulation, very small, but it was the most real looking thing. Much better than what was coming out of Star Wars at that point, where the articulation was in the shoulders and the legs, right? So on my last live, if you were there, I had on, we did a Stinger review, myself, and of course the rest of my backyard battlefield compadres, Aaron the Toy Enhancer and Down South 77 3-star draw, and we had our special guest Lawrence, a punk with toys, and we did this review on the Stinger. And at the end, I asked the guys to pick what we were going to talk about, and I said one Joe, one Cobra, and one vehicle. That's what I wanted to talk about on this live today. One Joe, one Cobra, one vehicle from 1982 that we were introduced to. So that's kind of where I'm going with this one today, guys. And as far as the chat goes, I realize some of you weren't around in 82, but you might very well have the figures or the vehicle I'm talking about today. And I invite you to participate in that discussion with your observations about what you like about that character's nuance or anything like that. And I also invite you to pull out any old Joes you have, especially if you have file cards, because I'm a big fan of those file cards, right? So I don't have that many in the chat. That's fine. I know my buddy Down South 77 is probably listening right now. He's on his way to the camper. Of course, his channel 3-star draw. He's on his way, as he is every weekend, to the camper. And of course, our other backyard battlefield compadre, Aaron the Toy Enhancer, is on a task in Texas, helping out a buddy. He's going to be kind of really hands tied uh, nose to the grindstone kind of way for the next couple of weeks. So while his channel will probably be producing content, I don't know how communication will be going with Aaron while he's on the job. He is a professional, right? So we have to consider that. So I really don't expect to have any guests today to help me out with this discussion. Really, I really don't, and that's okay. I didn't put the invite out there because it was. I know how most guys have their families, and I know most of my backyard battlefield was going to be tasked otherwise. And because I'm starting this new format, I wanted to see how well I could kind of control the chat and the content as we go. Still no slides for my lives, guys, because I'm working with a very basic StreamYard right now and setting up the studio still. But down the line, I think I am going to have to really get into maybe some other programs that allow me to do what I want to do, which is give you the slides. So we're going to roll right on with a quick update on some guys. Jay Astro is a wonderful human being who went through some events, and I never said how much I was happy to hear that he's back in the chats and healthy again. And guys, Wraith Mace is another one that just went through some medical issues, and he's on the mend and feeling strong. He is the hammer, and he's proven it because he took on one of the big ones, guys, and he come out swinging and winning, right? So I just want to make sure that we all say hi to them. I want to make sure that I say hi to everybody, right? But I can't say hi to everybody. That would be the goddamn hour. So I'm going to roll right into what we're getting into today, which is 1982. When you were however old, I believe I was 9, possibly 8 at the time. Where were you when G.I. Joe came out? That's the first question I would have to a lot of guys as we open into this discussion, right? So 1982, if we were to Google right now, I'm going to tell you, I already know the answer to this. This is perhaps where our first indication of the Hasbro's grudge against the country of Australia began, because the number one hit on the radio was Let's Get Physical by Olivia Newton-John. I'm going to tell you that right now because I had to look that up last night because I was really hoping it would be something cooler that we could work in, but it wasn't. All right. Yeah, Dave. Yeah, he is, man. Yeah, he is. Sorry. Just really proud of Wraith Mace right now. So Let's Get Physical is the number one hit in 82. And if you think about it, we're getting into the Star Wars sequel ebb over from Empire. The toy market is still lit up with Star Wars figures, right? Olivia Newton-John, the Australian sex symbol, she was a double threat. She was, of course, singing about Let's Get Physical, but who knows the big movie that she was most popular for in that era. Give you a minute in the chat. If somebody can tell me the movie that Olivia Newton-John became a household name over not just music, hit it up in the chat. I know I got 3 people there. Grind your gears. What was the movie? I know Dave was alive for it. I don't know about the others. All right, so all those gears get grinding, and hopefully they're properly lubricated. Good guess on a Crayon Slayer in that era, but not that at all. But you know what? As much as music was a part of Flashdance, it was also a part of this movie that I'm talking about. Keep going. So 1982, Olivia Newton-John, this Australian goddess of the era, and here comes G.I. Joe, and we get this OG wave. Now, this isn't where we'd see the grudge against Australia show up. That would show up in characters like Major Blood, any of the Dreadnoks, right? It seemed like all the villains were coming out of Australia suddenly, right? And all the heroes were coming out of the USA and England. I don't know why no Canadians didn't show up, at least in the follow-on waves, but they didn't. But that's for another life. In 82, we got 13 characters. BMX Bandits. No, come on now. I gave you some here. Gears are grinding. They need a lubricant. It's a music-related movie from that era. And we are going to be talking about a certain driver today. Guys, it was the movie Grease. I got to, move things along. Sorry if I didn't give enough hits. Okay, so Olivia Newton-John was in Grease with John Travolta, okay? Yeah, Olivia Newton-John. That's right. I am correct. Prove me wrong. Anyways, yeah, there you go, Dave. Thank you. So in the OG 13, I asked Aaron and I asked Darren and I asked Lawrence to pick me some characters. And the first one we're going to talk about is the one that Down South 77 Darren talked about and said he knew I had a real like for this guy, a real connection for this guy. There you go. Dave's gears are grinding now. He's starting to put some things together. Wait a minute. Yeah. Right? Clutch. Okay. Clutch is a character. I wouldn't say he was my first love for Joe as far as the action figures went, right? I think that went instantly to the first ones I got, which was Stalker and Breaker, parallel to each other, that first wave. But Clutch was one that I didn't get to find until Christmas morning, of course, when I got my vamp. Now, I know Dave is probably old enough to remember the original vamp at some point. You can see my figure's got a little bit of a wobble, eh? But Clutch is one of those guys where his role for Joe was something that I learned to appreciate over the years as I grew older, not as a kid. As far as I was concerned as a kid, this was Bo and Luke Duke, right? Either one of those. You put them behind the wheel of your vamp, you put anybody beside them, they're irrelevant. This guy was going to make that Jeep fly, right? So while we look at that, very good question, Sonic Crayon Slayer. I just gonna pull up Clutch's file card here because I had that up there before, and I'm gonna ask about this question. So a retro card Clutch, and it's a good question. In that, sorry, I'm just gonna put that back. Would you accept a retro card vehicle driver if the classified vehicle was out there or not? So meaning like, hey, if we got, let's say Skidmark or Cross Country, and we didn't get those applicable vehicles with it, we just got those guys, would you accept that? Let me know in the chat about that, because I think I would, and for my reasons, but I wonder what you guys would think about that. Drivers with no vehicles and no hope of those vehicles coming. I mean, at least you get the figs, right? But whether they do a retro card Clutch or not, it's a really good question. I could see the benefits for doing it, but I also heard recently that vamp may have come back up for order. The original vamp for the classified line, Clutch and the Joe's vamp, may be up again for pre-orders of some sort. I don't know. I saw something on YouTube. I think I think I saw it on Iron Ken in his banner about something about pre-orders and the vamp coming back. So you may want to look into that if you missed out on that. I of course bought mine from one of my good friends, Joe Fest, and I paid the aftermarket price ish, very lower for it, and I don't regret doing that. But if it becomes available for order again, that's going to be interesting, right? So Daredevil Dave, you had both Clutches back then, twin Clutches and Axel, yeah. Okay, so an interesting thing about Clutch back then, right? So we all know you had Clutch come with the vamp, right? And then a couple of years later, they would make the Vamp Mark II because, of course, the Stinger was available. And so the molds were all there, just like they are now. And we would get the Vamp Mark II, right? Oh, they're sold out again in minutes, eh? Wow. And Daredevil Dave, you were able to get them for, okay. So they did become available again. And again, poof, they're gone. All right. That's how we said in Quebecois. So there I was looking at it, and paf, before I knew it, paf, I was gone. Paf. It's just one of those things. But so, yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. And that's too bad, guys, because I know some people really, they were like me. They missed out on the vamp. It was a poor opportunity at the time for them to get it. What are you going to do? But back to Clutch for a second. Lance Steinberg there, okay? The interesting thing about him is he's one of the examples of where they lost name rights to this guy for a while there. And so there was actually a time where he was just known as Double Clutch later in the line. And I think that was actually not, do you guys know, was that with the Vamp Mark II? Dave, you said you had the Vamp Mark II, so I'm just wondering if that was with that one. I'm going to look up the file card for both, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to take the helmet off because that's the one thing I really like about that. While I sort out that image, there you go. So I really like the sculpt on this, and this is what Classified does. It triggers the nostalgia by giving you the identifiable character from when you were a kid, and then making it more modern, making it more detailed, and drawing your eyes to it even harder with the modernization and the modern way of doing figures. And it's a real good trick to really draw in people that wouldn't normally collect figures because it's so recognizable to the market of adults that are in the workforce right now. So a guy like Clutch might not appeal to a 30-year-old, might not even appeal to a 35-year-old, but somebody 45 to 50, they know. Okay, he was just Clutch with Mark II, same file card, different colors. Okay, so it was later in the line, perhaps post 84, after the 94 end of the Joe line, and maybe when they went into Valor versus Venom. Maybe that's when the dispute came up. I'm not sure. Oh no, I'm looking at double Clutch file card right now. Yep. And it looks like it's from about that time, I guess. So the original Vampire card said that Lance Steinberg, his primary military specialty was transportation, right? So driver, that makes sense. And then a secondary of infantry. Okay, so we'll keep that up and let's talk about those specialties for a second. If anyone has an extra Clutch, I'd buy it, but I wouldn't pay eBay 120. That's right, man. I paid $45 for my Clutch before I had a Vamp. The guy had just put it up. There was no disputing. I said, I'll buy it right now. And I was on my way. But what people were willing to pay for the thing, that's unfortunate. So that would be a good argument for why we need a single fig release of this, at least at some point, right? The retro card, as Crayon Slayer was suggesting. So going back to him being infantry, secondary, and things like that, A3 star, thanks for showing, bud. He's got a good loadout, I guess, for a simple figure accessory where you want to keep the money tight on how they spend that money. Remembering when he first came out with the Vamp in 82, this was all just details stuck to the figure. You couldn't remove a pistol. That wasn't going to happen. You weren't going to be able to remove a wrench. And yeah, thankfully you could remove a helmet, but what you would get under there is male pattern baldness just in fading paint and rub, right? So, and visors, the way they did all this back then in 82, it was cutting edge, right? But now we hold Hasbro to a different standard and say compete with the approaches of the modern toy line the way they did. And whether it was Bobby Avallo's idea or anyone else's to go back to the 6-inch line, whoever's idea it was a good idea because you could incorporate those details and compete with what was a growing market coming out of the comic book and pop lore toy market. G.I. Joe could find a place quickly and be dominant, just like Star Wars and any other property. So Clutch having a loadout like this made sense. But when he came out and Classified with a pump action shotgun, that's where I was like, okay, now this loadout is stopped. It doesn't make sense anymore. Okay. Classified treats those shotgun molds, and I don't even have one lying around because I'm so sick of seeing it. I don't even think I have it in the truck at this point with CoverGirl. They treat those pump action shotguns like toothbrushes. Everybody's carrying one. And if you can't think of a better gun, just give them that. I don't know why they think every infantry or army soldier just has an extra shotgun laying around, but they're not a very practical weapon for anything that the infantry or army do. They are practical for close quarters breaching, for taking a doorknob and perhaps, putting some buckshot or something. I don't know, man. I'm telling you, though, for this mechanic to defend his vehicle, if it's a mobility kill or something like that, or the guns go down and he's got to defend that vehicle, and he's doing so with a 9mm pistol and a pump action shotgun, well, I at least the updated version of Clutch gives you some nice tattoos and whatnot to suggest he's a little rough and tumble and ready for the fight. Because he's going fisticuffs after that. He's going to use that wrench. He's going to use that wrench and that shovel on that vehicle, right? So the infantry loadout for Clutch, or the driver loadout for Clutch, uh, that's the tactical side of how I look at things with my other, when I do my reviews, I like to put that perspective on it, guys. You know that. I would have given him something similar what was given to Outback, a collapsible carbine with the, standard 5.56 mags that he can interchange with anyone else in his unit and support with. Because you know what? In a firefight, if his vehicle's doing fine, rocking and talking and laying down suppressive fire, or doing its job because it hasn't taken enough fire to make it immobilized, then maybe he doesn't need those extra mags when someone else does, right? But a pump action shotgun is nope, just nope. Nope. Okay, so we've talked about the kit loadout as far as the weapons goes. As far as the accessories go, right? Now in Classified, they'll update things that Clutch never had, like little tool satchels on the side, right? Not a part of the original figure. And of course, we did talk about the face and everything like this. So we go back to the file card to explain him a little bit. Now, the name, his name Steinberg, apparently is one of those isms where Hasbro and the Marvel, in their relationship, they had a very well-respected staff member, and Lance is named after her, I think, as far as that last name. So he is from Asbury Park, New Jersey, and he is basically a sergeant, I believe. Clutch was a mechanic at Manny's Mean Machines and was heavily involved in racing street machines prior to enlistment. He graduated advanced Army training, covert ops schools, and executive bodyguard school, Ranger school, qualified expert, M14, M16, M19, 11, A1, the M3A1, M79, and M60. Okay, so he's qualified everything that's going to appear on his vehicle right up to 7.62 caliber, and then he's done, right? And his machine guns that we give him on Joe's classified vehicles are 50 cals. So is he qualified? I didn't see. Was he qualified 50 cal? It'd be interesting if he wasn't, but I mean, if he wasn't, it's not a big deal, guys. It's just pointing these things out. Yeah, I don't see 50 cal on there, but again, I don't know all the American weapons. I know the Canadian equivalents. All right. So when I was looking into Clutch over the last few days, I of course went over to JLS Comics, and if you are not subscribed or following or have never watched JLS Comics and you are a fan of G.I. Joe characters or Star Wars characters or comic characters, pop lore, pop characters, you should take a venture down to JLS and see if he's got some stuff that you might be drawn to, because he's got a lot of good hint on these characters that we've loved since our childhoods or are learning to love now. And he'll give you a quick 20 to 30 minute expose on that character. So of course, I had to sit down and re-listen to Clutches. It's not the first time I had heard it, but I paid more attention to some details, because how is Clutch being portrayed right now in the comic books? Right now, if you're following G.I. Joe and you're following the other mediums that's appearing, you're seeing our Joe characters showing up in a lot of comics from Skybound Entertainment Group right now, which is, of course, owned or run by Robert Kirkland of The Walking Dead. He's the originator of The Walking Dead and Invincible. In G.I. Joe, we get to meet Clutch in the Duke series. So if you've already collected the Duke series, good on you, because it's a very elusive comic series to get right now for the first few issues, unless you want to buy the 4th, 5th prints. In that, Clutch is portrayed exactly as this paragraph would describe from the file card. He greases his hair with motor oil, rarely shaves, and chews on the same toothpick for months. Clutch still calls women chicks. All right, so just like JLS supported in his expose on Clutch, and the file card alludes to, Clutch is very much about two things: racing great cars and sleeping with great women. All right, and that's about it. He's the womanizer. He is, to go back to 82 for a second, this is Larry to Jack Tripper in Three's Company. All right, this is, except that he's a car guy, and he doesn't quite have the fro, right? So speaking of fros, I gotta say hello to Boydie 222. What's going on, buddy? Long night? Phew. Were you putting figures away now that the contest was done or what? Holy crap, man. If you guys aren't tracking, well, I mean, you guys are tracking, but if somebody's on the replay isn't tracking, all right, we Aaron the Toy and Answers channel, a couple of channels have had these, the troop build contest. And Woody has entered, as did, who else entered? Was it Triple C, Grievance, Savage Land? I can't remember. There was quite a few, and they showed off their armies. And there's a reason I didn't enter that contest. The numbers that you guys achieved, I would have felt like that 13-year-old kid going into the seniors shower, after basketball practice was, oh God, you guys are, no. You guys would have beaten me out of that channel's contest. I'll tell you that right now. Good on you guys. Those were amazing videos. If you haven't had a chance, check it out. All right, so getting back to old Clutch here, because we got 2 more figures we're going to review after this. You have to know who they are, all right? We're 1 figure and 1 vehicle, right? So Clutch is the womanizer, and that's how he's introduced in the Duke series and everything like that. And if I remember right, I think there was quite a time where Clutch just sat beside Scarlet in my vamp no matter what, because I was tired of having Scarlet's broken thumb interfere with the fact she couldn't fire a gun. And it made sense that Clutch would get the girls, because what few comics I read, and I never saw the cartoons, alluded to the fact that Clutch would probably hit on Scarlet. And I think I knew that as a kid. All right, so my Clutch will carry a Vala SMG, way easier to maneuver in and out of a vehicle. Very good choice. Yeah. All right, guys. In closing argument, and I'll use that as my closing on Clutch. Okay, I really liked Clutch, not just because he came with a vamp. In fact, if you followed the channel, you would realize. Yeah, I'm sloppy over there. Follow the channel. You remember I bought this without the vamp, regardless, because he's OG 13, and I needed to have him. And I explained also because when I started my career in the Army, I started as a driver for armored vehicles. So I could start getting trained up on these vehicles, and eventually you're going to end up behind the wheel of a vehicle that has 4 wheels and a machine gun. And at some point, it crosses your mind. Oh, so this is what Clutch did. Because you think you're out there just bombing around Baja and having a great time and blah, 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 blah. It's great. But they don't account for all the maintenance he has to do, all the bullshit he has to do, trying to get parts, all the boring inspections he has to do, trying to go around and get every grease nipple on an armored vehicle, packed full of grease, and all the shit that we had to do as drivers. None of that gets glorified in a cartoon or a comic book, so how would you ever know, right? But the practical thing is that Clutch is kind of the driving threshold knowledge of how to deal with other vehicles. He has to take classes like armored vehicle recognition, things like that, because he's got to be quick to realize threats. He's got to understand IED environments. He's got to learn a lot of different drills to react to a lot of different military-based threats that Cobra would bring to the table. All these little things you don't think about as a kid. He blew my mind away for years as a driver, as I worked my way out of the driver position into gunnery and into eventually other positions within my trade. There was a time where I just sat there and thought about Clutch all the time, going, you lying motherfucker, why didn't you tell me all you did was sweep up Absorball for oil spills? Right? Let's have a look there. We'll just see. I know the chat's been in and out, guys. That's fine. I never go into Saturday lives expecting a big chat, nor do I expect a replay. It's your family time. It's time to get shit done in the work week, and I understand that. For me, it's just nostalgia, guys. When do I play with my Joes the most in my memory? Saturday mornings or Saturday afternoons going out with my friends, right? In my memories, that's what it all was. So that's why I always do them on Saturdays. And I keep my backyard battlefield stuff, off to the side somewhere in the work week, right? That's an evening thing. Anyways, that's going to close out about Clutch. Now, the other one we talked about is going to be the vehicle. I'll talk about the vehicle. And that one was picked by Lawrence. Now, a lot of you will have this vehicle. and I do not. Well, you'll have a version of it. All right. So this one, I'm going to be tempted to just talk about the guy that came with it, and I shouldn't be, but it's the only representation I have. I am, of course, going to be talking about the MMS for G.I. Joe in 1982. Came out, and it was a towable trailer, rocket launching, glorified son of a bitch for the back of your vamp and everything like that. And I just never saw it as a kid. I never got one, and none of my friends ever did. Same as the Cobra version. Okay. But what made me mad about that, and eventually it got corrected in the line, is it meant I couldn't get one of the OG 13 ever. And that was Colonel Hawk at the time, or just Hawk as we knew him. And of course, Hawk was easily overlooked because he looked so much like Short Fuse that you'd almost not worry about it when you're that age. You're like, bam, bam, unless you're a die-hard and driven collector. And I never got that system. I never had anything that was towed by my vamp that wasn't a whirlwind, and that was it. Right, that's all I had. So the MMS, this ballistic missile launching parka trailer with a little detachable control panel. I never had it, don't have much experience of it. And of course, that's the one that I get hit with to talk to. And I knew I was going to have to speak to it at a certain point. So I'm going to focus mostly on who does, sorry, I shouldn't say who has it. I know, looking at my chat, you guys have the Cobra MMS. Of course, with the 788 Techno Viper variant that they repainted right at the same time they released the other Techno Viper, which is great. The Joe MMS is going to come down the line, but I'm skeptical if it'll come with a Hawk. Of course, this is the only Hawk we have in our line right now, and this is Colonel Hawk. General Hawk, pardon me. Was it General Hawk? I don't have the box. Anyways, he's up in the ranks. He's older now, right? And we have this fig, but we don't have the original one. And of course, the original one used a very, very, very simple body design. One that we see with, I think it's Grunt, right? Is it Grunt that just has this? No, it's not. It's just a simple body harness. Yeah, Grunt's is a simple body design. It's more in line with that, but it was one that in 82 was repeated a few times. It was the same body design for torso design for Zap, Short Fuse, and himself. And I think there was one more that used it. It was the cross harness chest piece. Anyways, regardless, all of them were repeats of each other at some point, and Snake Eyes was a throw-in of all of them. But I really do want us to get the OG 13 Hawk. I just don't know if it'll come with the MMS now that they have a Hawk represented. They could do a Hawk and a retro card. I feel like this MMS that is going to be coming for G.I. Joe Classified could be coming with a Short Fuse or a Zap, and I'll explain why in a second. Yeah, the Whirlwind was the one I had as well. Yeah, I really do think we will end up with Classified because the Gatling gun molds are already out there. Robert from Infinite Realms, welcome. Thank you for stopping by today. Happy Saturday, happy weekend. We are just recovering 3 items out of 1982 for this live. And last weekend, they were picked. So we just talked about Clutch. We're talking about the MMS, but it's kind of more a little bit about Hawk as well. And we have one more on there that we're going to talk about, the Cobra element of this. So the thing about the Hawk and why I think he'll end up in a retro line. The reason I think he won't come with the MMS is because I think in order to get a Short Fuse or a Zap out there, Hasbro's got to pull some 3-card Monty here. And you have to think about the sense of appeal and reuse. We have mortars for Short Fuse if we use other things, but I don't know if actually I don't even think they didn't do a mortar. No, they didn't do a mortar. Pardon me. We don't even have mortars, I don't think, in the molds yet, do we? And mortars are not a direct fire toy, right? So a lot of kids, I don't think, liked Short Fuse and his mortar when he came out in 82 because they didn't understand the idea of lobbing fire. as much fun as perhaps just direct, ah, brrr, I killed you, no, you didn't, right? That kind of play. So the adult market, I think, would like mortars. I have no problems with mortars. My short fuse custom, I don't really like it that much. I don't think I've got the right head on that. But it did come with my friend Model Misfits 1138. He has his own channel, Model Misfit, Loki Wartooth. He gave me a print of a mortar. And I can see Hasbro doing these, but then where would they reuse them? So you got to think about where short fuse would end up on a Hasbro modernized appeal. And I think that's where he starts making sense with an MMS. Some sort of base defense weapon would make sense for short fuse. He's a defensive specialist. Zap is another one because Bazooka's already come out twice, and Tiger Force and regular with his bazooka, and we're getting an abundance of these 84 millimeter rockets, right? But Zap had just the old school, simple rocket. And I don't think we're like retro Zap, fine. But in order to get him into classified, perhaps he's another one they have to consider for these trailers. So yeah, MMS is it's a guarantee for sure because we have, and they've said as much. It's going to come. That's why I held off on buying the Cobra one at the time, was because at the time I had no idea when I was ever moving what kind of studio space or collecting space I was going to have in this new house. I knew I was in a temporary accommodation, and I just looked at the amount of space being asked by these vehicles, right? I didn't have these vehicles then, and I didn't have this space. So I said to myself, I'm not a big fan of the Techno Viper. I really wasn't. He reminds me of Grimace meets Power Rangers meets Cylons from Battlestar Galactica and a few other things. But I respect the figure. I have one. But I just didn't need it repeated. And if I'm going to buy this MMS, I wanted it to be for my Joes, not my Cobras, right? So I picked. Now I'm going to end up getting them both at some point, right? Just to speak on them. I also didn't realize how far I was going to take this channel, I think. So the MMS with Joe, it could and could not come with Hawk. And it's going to be one probably of the earlier trailers we're going to see coming out just for the Vamps coming out. And I could see it coming out synonymously with the talk of a Vamp Mark II, because we're talking about base defense pieces playing catch up, easy release in the molds that they have. It's easy money. Look at what just happened with the Vamp Mark I. We were just talking about this. I just said I had just noticed Ironkin put up a video saying it came up back on Hasbro and we should all check it out. You guys said, I checked it out. It's gone. And I'm saying I'm not surprised. Are you? Right? When I got my Stinger the other day, it was only because I had a pre-order and prepaid on a little bit of it. I went to go see if there was any extras later. No, you're going to have to wait, man. Like, we're still filling pre-orders here, right? Everything is all effed up. So the buzz for the Vamp is make them and we'll buy them fast. So can you imagine the repaint of Clutch? Yeah, if we do it on retro, I think what would end up happening is people would be upset because they know a Vamp Mark II is coming, right? Hey, we got Same Time Toys. What's going on, Shane? We are just 2/3 of the way through this live. We've talked about Clutch in 82 and Clutch in the modern classified line, and we've talked about the MMS a little bit in 82 and a little bit in the modernized line, just because I don't have that one. But we also shifted some focus to General Hawk, and of course, the other reason is I don't believe Hawk is the right character to go with these defensive positions. It's just because he's the goddamn commander of Joe. If anything, he should be like behind a radio set. Techno Viper, I understand why everybody loves the Techno Viper, but me. I got touched by Grimace, guys. It's the way it is. I've always liked the Techno Viper, but I grabbed the single release. SMS is okay, but I have the original version. Yeah, and yeah, the SMS is okay. But what I like about the SMS, of course, is the trick that they want us to like about it, right? It's how well it's going to look with the Hiss tank or the Stinger. That's what I like about it. How good the 788 Soldier Pack looks with that thing, right? It's all planned aesthetics, right? It's like buying a portion of a nice painting and you get the middle portion first. You know you want those flanks. Ooh, it looks good either way, right? So we're gonna hop on. Oh, we got 80s Toy Boy here. Hey, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Yeah, Tan Clutch, he's gonna be coming. Stanley Hayes, good to see you. Thanks for joining us with your lunch. Yeah, I aim for breakfast because I'm a lazy eater, right? But yeah, for some of you, it's gonna be lunch. Shane, think there we go. Daredevil Dave saw your video on Mantis. I'm gonna have to watch that one, right? Mantis, is that the Marvel Mantis? Marvel character Mantis? I'll have to watch. Oh, General Flag. Well, I think what we're gonna keep doing is I'm gonna get 3 more for my next live, but we're gonna stay in 82 for one more bound, and then we'll move to 83. Eventually, maybe we'll get to the era the flag came out with and talk about him. Hey, so let's go. WWE monster truck clearance for $24. Thanks for mentioning that, Stanley. Is that US or is that Canadian? There's a difference for me. But for anybody doing conversions out there you go. There's an interesting appeal for your dreadnoughts, right? Monster trucks. Everybody's focusing on bikes. Sure, you could have a nice little bike gang with your dreadnoughts. But I've had this sitting around for a while for mine, and I'm eventually going to get to completing that. Sometimes this screams dreadnought too, right? So monster trucks are one way to go at it, guys. Let's keep going down here. It's a Halo Walker for 3 3/4. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I see where we're going. Yeah. Okay. The Mantis. Yeah. Okay. USA. Okay, Robert, what did you say here? I can see your short fuse ideas, original. Okay, yeah, and so I have this issue when people start really complaining too hard about reuse and reuse of the molds and repaints, because I'm just like, what do you think happened between 82 and 85? Like, it was just like, we've got 12 new characters. We've got 4 more. 1 more. Right? It's just nonstop. So yeah, but the thing is, that's uniformity, really. I don't think there's anything more military than repetition, right? There really isn't. Joe is all individuals, right? Because they're the hero military, they're the elite, they're all these other things. But then everybody says, I want modern, I want real. And like me, I say that because I have a background in the military. Of course I'm going to fucking say that, right? But I like imagination, I like sci-fi, I like fantasy. It's fine. But I'm going to let those things squeak out. But all those people that are like, I want a troop build, I want massive amounts of troops. I'm like, okay, so you like repetition, but you hate reuse of molds, and you hate repaints, but you like repetition. This is very confusing. There we go. Oh, Dreadnought Thunder Crusher. Okay, guys, if you're not tuned in to Daredevil Dave, how do I do this? I'm pointing this way, so I want to go this way. Daredevil Dave over here. Do check out his channel. And pretty much everybody in my chats always has a channel, guys. So if you see a guy and you don't recognize it, click on it. See if he's got some followers. Go check their channel out, because it's probably better than mine. Yeah, and that was the other thing too, right? Right down to the face, guys. These faces repeated over and over again. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say this right now. Grunt, to me, was always Michael Ironside. He always looked like Michael Ironside to me. It was just like, we didn't have lasers to capture likenesses back in 82, but I feel like somebody came back in time and just said, put Michael Ironside's face in this mold. He'll breathe later. We'll get him straws. Just mold him. It was that kind of likeness to me. I don't know if anybody else saw it, though. So who was the last character we're going to talk about today? If you watched the last stream, you know that it was, who was it? Aaron the Toy Enhancer that said, let's talk about Coco, right? So he was more talking about Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander. And I was like, well, I guess that, I don't know how Mickey Mouse fell into the line per se. I suppose if I had researched it a little bit, it would have been probably after 82, but in there. But it was the 82 Cobra Commander, or 82, 83 Cobra Commander that he was kind of talking about, right? And he knew Oh, geez, I got the sticky tack to keep them from falling. He knew he had passed me one of these Super 7s there when I had been at his place because we went to Joe Fest together this summer. And he had passed me one of those, and I thought about opening this, but I was laughing because it was like Super 7 did back sale, and now we're all ape shit about it. But it had that file card. So I'll read you the file card the back the Super 7 put on their variants of this. And it says Cobra Commander is enemy leader. Okay, and we got those Super 7 relays, but I'm not gonna look at those. His primary specialty is intelligence. It's kind of weak now because you've been reading the Cobra back. There's way more to just intelligence on this. There's also car sales. His secondary military is ordnance and experimental weaponry, which would make sense. He's contracted Destro. Destro's got to show him how everything works. Absolute power, total control of the world, its people, wealth, and resources. That's the objective of Cobra Commander. This fanatical leader rules with an iron fist. He demands total loyalty and allegiance. His main battle plan for world control relies on revolution and chaos. He personally led uprisings in the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and other troubled spots. Responsible for kidnapping scientists, businessmen, and military leaders, then forcing them to reveal their top-level secrets. Cobra Commander is a hatred and evil personified, corrupt, a man without scruples, probably the most dangerous man alive. All right, so that's just off the back of the Super 7 one. I didn't get the original one out with the file card from the original one, but that's just an overview on our last guy, the Cobra Commander. Let's see. 82 line, they also focus more on the vehicle, so the figures. By 83, they saw the figures portray a part of that. Okay, let's take a time out for a second just to talk about that. It's a really good point because it just repeated itself. There's so many parallels between what the 82 line did as an experimental, will this work for our line, to what Hasbro does and says, oh my God, these are still concerns, and the vehicles are a part of that. The reason the classified version of the Vamp was such an issue was because it was the first big vehicle they were trying to make readily available for people at that price point and size and weight and everything like that. And they had no idea how these things would be received. I'm not moving my Vamp. It doesn't have the cans on it. Wouldn't look good. But they had no idea how this big of a toy was going to be received in a line that had received some criticism already for quality and other issues, right? The nostalgia appeal just wasn't enough to bank on, right? So they became hard to get. All right, so what's better? So back to the Cobra Commander, yeah. Filecast, right? Let's see if this file card says anything different. This is the back of the HasLab one that came with the Hiss. This is, of course, the one that Aaron the Toy Enhancer had talked about. The Mickey Mouse one, there you can see all the kit, but you can see it's just your general Cobra Commander. The back of the file card, no. There's really not any difference there at all. It's the exact same file card. It reads the same. So that's good. At least we've got the right information to go on because the Crow, these file cards, that's the rule, man. Black ball beats them all. Stamp it, no erases. It's just the rule of Joe. You start with the file card and everything else that happens is allowed to be canon, but not if it contradicts that. Let's see. We got Skritter, the most dangerous man in the world storyline. I think Cobra Law, yeah. So, the world storyline. Oh, so I don't, yeah. I'm still getting caught up on the cartoons. I'm gonna admit to that, right? So I grew up without them. Read some of the comics. I snipe the odd cartoon and watch them. I understand. I do more learning just through the JLS sites and reading the odd article and things like that, and just through organic discussion and things like that. But most dangerous, yeah. Cobra Law seemed to be one of those things that just really hit or miss with those guys. It missed with me. It did. It missed with me. It missed with a lot of people my age, but it hit with a lot of people just a little younger than me. All right. And I'm not going to lie. I do have the Once a Man Cobra Commander on its way for the review. It is going to find its way on shelf. I will buy Cobra Law, but I'll have the same opinions of it. The difference being is that I actually like it just a little bit more tolerable than Collective Python Patrol for some reason. I don't know. Aesthetics, right? Sub with BBTS re-release of the Vamp at 130. Yeah, well, I mean, this The Vamp right now, do you see any purpose to them continuing to print those guns? They've got to move away from the Vamp molds. They're probably just burning out what they had left with the lifespan of those molds, if you would, or something to like that effect. But they had that window open, and we made of it what we could when that Vamp got initially released. I'm with you, brother. I paid double the cost, probably. You know, like I paid the aftermarket price for it, but on a fairer scale because I knew the guy, right? And a lot of people don't get that choice. So if you were able to snipe one on this very brief release from BBTS or Hasbro, good on you. For those who weren't able to take advantage, I sympathize. I understand. You're subjective to that market again. Let's go. BBTS would scalp it. Okay, well, I don't want to do anything with other people's businesses and do that. But I mean, the comments there, you guys can read it and be aware, Robert. Robert always has people's best interests at heart. Absolutely, right? Chuck Dixon did a G.I. Joe interview while watching 87 movie and talked about absolutely amazing interview. Okay, well, we'll have to look at that, right? So with the Cobra Commander, right, I had learned to hate, and I mean effing hate, this character. This was like the worst part of G.I. Joe for me. Because while I didn't get to watch the cartoons, I did see the movies. So really, my first exposure to this guy was the like Cobra Law shit, right? And where he failed in comics and where he failed in cartoons and everything resonated to me as a comic reader later, after I went and read things like X-Men, Avengers, Batman, everything like this. And this guy, to me, should have been killed a billion different ways every episode. By his own people, for starters, right? What I'm trying to capture here is this: his ineptitude just did not satisfy my need for a threat to the Joes. He just wasn't a capable character in my eyes. Now, he was a bumbling fool with all these weapons, access to everything he needed to really be a threat, but his own incompetence, because he was a cartoon character meant for kids, really stood out in my mind as, didn't Joe need somebody tougher? And I think the creators kept thinking that too, which is why we got Serpentor, why we got Iron Grenadiers, why we got all these different threats, right? But I hated Cobra Law so much, it caused my one break in collecting when they came out. It lasted 8 months, but significant. Yeah, and there you go, right? And Hasbro rolled the dice. I don't know if you would consider them a win or a loss for Hasbro. I really wouldn't know what those spreadsheets even look like, but I do know that they made an impression that was questionable, and that's the best of it. So the Cobra Once a Man character that evolves out of this iteration of Cobra Commander now is this hot commodity, even with people that don't like Cobra Law because of FOMO, right? I'm guilty of it, right? But I wanted the SDC exclusive for myself. I wanted to start having some of these notable pieces just for the channel and to have an opinion on it, because I don't believe in having a strong set of opinions on something if you haven't actually put it in your hand and really looked at it, right? So why would I judge the Once a Man Cobra Commander to heavy criticism without putting it in my hands? Hey, we got Mython the Python in there. Welcome, Mython. Mahalo, brother. It's good to see you. And yeah, just saying hi to each other. That's good. So Cobra Commander didn't feel like he was a threat. Felt like he had at least the resources to employ good threats like Destro, Firefly, Major Blood, Baroness, all those good threats. But him himself walking around with a hairdryer of a laser gun, 1982. I don't know why anyone thought that was a threat, but it probably really let kids go out with their mom's hairdryer in the yard and go, I am Cobra Commander. Oh, Billy's Cobra Commander. Right? And mom's soaking hair. But yeah, just not impressive. But the design of the character was something I really liked. They made a really cool looking villain. He did look cool and all that. That mask was something bold. It's got no eyes. It's got no mouth. Oh my goodness gracious me, that is scary as fuck, right? but as soon as you heard him talk with that ridiculous voice and issue a stupid order and throw a tantrum, everything cool that happened here faded away. So that was how I looked at it. Now, as far as equipment goes, back in the day, it was more like this. It was more like his simple hair dryer gun, and I think it could. No, I don't think they were innovative enough to put it on the back or not. I can't remember. Did it go on the back? But either way, but here, it does go on the back, right? They've shown you, they give you hand options, they give you little accessories that weren't incorporated, and I do like that Classified did that, not just leaving it at that simple. I call it hairdryer gun again. They gave some personality and some global threat kind of feel to him, and not stick him next to a missile launcher. They included him with the his tank HasLab release tiers, knowing full well a lot of us wouldn't open them, and if they did, it's fine. He's commanding from the turret of a tank. That's a pretty intimidating thing. Although I'm going to tell you right now, I don't classify the Hiss as a tank, but it's cool. It's different. It's iconic, right? But I go back to putting General Hawk or Colonel Hawk with an MMS, and I'm like, no, it doesn't work the same way. This goof, I don't care. So that's really all I can say on those three characters at this point. Hang on, I just forgot I have to do something here. What is Shawnee's? Yes, much better leader of Cobra, and Woody, congratulations on winning the troop building contest on Aaron the Toy Enhancer's channel. I guess I know you were given some more than healthy competition. I also know that there's more Joes in your place than most of the retail outlets here in my area of Ottawa right now. If I were to go shopping at Woody's, I would probably find way more selection. Wow. Those videos, guys, if you haven't had a chance to do it, Aaron's not here to defend himself, but the Toy Enhancer did do this contest. Great prize, apparently. I had these guys enter in Woody 222. It was a troop building contest. If you want to see some gloriously large and very imaginative, creative concepts, go check that out. All right. So let's get to the last part of it, because I'm going to smooth things down. I'm going to give you a closing thought on that Hiss tank now that I thought of it. What I say is not a tank. And, well, I'll give you a loose reason why. And then we're going to pick the next three for next week, so you guys know what we're getting into next week, okay? So the reason I say the Hiss is not a main battle tank at all right, is because it lacks the armament. It's not armored well enough to be it, but it's more of an infantry fighting vehicle, okay? In that, it's got a small crew compartment in the back for a small crew contingent. Its weapon is anti-air or anti-light armor vehicle, so it's the equivalent of like a 25 mil turret. It is not the equivalent of a tank turret at all. And that front armor, everything that's going on there, that's a concept that just wouldn't work with a main battle tank because of the glass. But it works with an infantry fighting vehicle. So to me, that's an IFV, guys. It could even be an AFV, just an armored fighting vehicle. For that crew compartment, you want your Techno Viper in there, that's great. That's what it is. There's your tactical perspective bullshit to throw onto that one, guys. There we go. Yeah. High-speed sentry. That's what Hiss stands for, right? It's not a high-speed sentry. It's not a tank. I'm just saying. I'm letting you know. All right. So for next week, guys, out of the 82 line, I will take one Joe, one Cobra, and one vehicle. If you guys have any opinions on that, I'm going to give it till the next minute 30. And then I'm going to see what shows up in the chat and close it out by picking some of that, okay? If I have that figure in my collection, great. That makes it much easier. If I have that vehicle in my collection, I guess we're talking about the Ram or the Vamp, really. That would be about it, right? So that will be next week's live. I may or may not have a guest next week. I never know. You know, the Saturdays are a crapshoot for us. So it has to be 82, 80 Toys Boy. I did see that, guys. 82, okay? So it's really limiting because I just want to do 2 from each year. and that will drag the live out for pretty much how that's going to go for the year, right? So it has to be 1982, which is the OG 13. And sorry to put that boundary on it. After that, we'll get 82 out of the way. We'll see how things go. But to remind you, those are the guys like the original Snake Eyes, the original Stalker, original Rock and Roll, Zap, Short Fuse, all those guys, Flash, who is coming to the line, Grand Slam, guys like that. So once I see that clock roll around to 60 minutes even, I'll have a look. And if not, that's okay, guys. I'm not throwing this on you. You got to do it. I'll just pick them and we'll go from there. But now you'll know what to expect. For anyone new to the chat tonight, thanks for joining us today. And for everyone that just keeps coming back, thanks for waiting that extra 5 minutes today. Sorry, I was running behind. Okay, so it's been 60 minutes. Let's see who we have. Okay. So we started seeing Snow Job and Baroness, which were the two examples, and then the Mauler, which is, again, much later in the line. Well, not much, but a couple of years off there. And my thought, I'll read about what's this. Cobra Commander is a very special character. Not everyone had a dad officially called that in the military. It was engraved into his base science. That's fair, yeah. I mean, like being the base commander's son's got some advantages. Okay, so I see Flash and the Jump. Okay, so Flash came with, and the Jump came with Grand Slam. Flash was his own guy. I'll double check that, but I'm 99% sure. But that would be Flash. No Snake Eyes ever. Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. Scarlet. Okay. So I'm going to go with the first one, which was Flash, and we'll use the Jump as the vehicle. There we go. I forgot about the Jump pad. So that, of course, comes with Grand Slam. So we'll get those two characters out of the way. Now, I doubt very much by next Saturday I'll have either one of those characters, but we'll talk about them. So let's get into Cobra. That really just leaves us the Cobra infantry characters. I'll bang them out. We'll just get the Cobra infantry and officer out of the way, and that'll close out 82 Cobra so we can move on to another year. So there you go, guys. Next week, we're going to talk about Flash. We're going to talk about the Jump pad, and we are going to talk about the Cobra infantry, okay? I do see some great suggestions in here. Do the ladies in a future episode. I think you're right. I think there's going to have to be a time where I roll the dice with this woke culture of criticism and say, you know what? Let's talk about the chicas. But that'll be after we get 82 out of the way. Okay. Yeah, see, same time. I think you're right. I just have to double check because I think Grand Slam came 83, like you're right. But Flash was the first one. I had him. Grand Slam was always kind of made repaint. But I think he's captured in the OG 13, but I think he was a later release than most of them. I just have to look into that. But either way, we might as well bang him out too, right? He's the same friggin' exact same buck, right? Did he? Okay, guys, Frostbite got a video up on the ladies. I'll be trying to avoid watching that so I don't feel like I've have to put mine off and not copy what they do. Always do the ladies. Jay Astro, what's up, buddy? So that's going to close out just that expose on that. Now, I'm not rushing to get off here. You know, I'm going to wind this thing down properly. Jay Astro, don't show yourself out. Your sense of humor is appreciated here, buddy. Always bang them out. Yes, of course. Why do you think I've set those things up, guys? I put those statements out there for you to take them, man. The wave. So on this channel, I have gotten pretty much all of the wave in because as I do my pre-orders, I put money down usually and go, oh, yeah, I'll pick them up, right? So I was able to secure some stuff, but right now I got to slow it down while we take care of some real life stuff that involves bills. But I am waiting and thinking that my wreckage and Tiger Paw will show up at some point. I'll do a review on that. Doc should be here any day. That was, of course, a deal I made with my buddy on a trade, so I know that one's coming. But I have no idea when we're going to see Retro Beachhead here in Nepean, Ontario, which is the sub-district of Ottawa, by the way. So that it's ironic, right? I didn't want the eel, I didn't want the snow serpent, I wanted Beachhead out of that way, and we didn't get there, right? Thanks, Mython. That's we're going to build those up. I was just getting things out of the way, but we will build dios up. In fact, I, like everybody else, seems to have a dio on the go that they're trying to lay low on involving Dr. Mindbender. So I'm not having a contest about mine. I'm not doing a giveaway about mine. I'm just annoyed at not having a Dr. Mindbender with this concept I'm working with. So I do want to get that done, but I am in the final stages of finishing off the grievance package right now. I am very close to being done that. So as soon as that's done, then you'll see the shelves get more attention. So Tiger Force, let's talk about that at some point. You know, I might bounce out a sequence and pick a year by determining a roll of dice with a 10-sided dice or doing something like that. But 1988, that's going to probably end up being a two-parter because 1988 gave us a lot, right? Gave us Tiger Force, gave us Night Force. I think it gave us Python Patrol, right? So when we get to 88, that one's going to be a slobber knocker. We might have to jump up and talk about a couple things at a time on that one. So recapping, I don't think there'll be a backyard battlefield this week per se. I'm not sure. Me and Down South 77, 3-star draw there. Who's listening in the chat. We'll talk. Maybe me and him will do something together. But as far as we know, Aaron the Toy and Ants are currently on a mission in Texas, right? Going on with that. And because he's doing that in Texas, he's brought some of his studio equipment. I just don't know how reliable the internet or the signals will be. We'll see like that, right? For myself, yeah, I'm going to bang out those reviews. We'll try and get another live done in a week, but I also have moving day coming up from one house to another. As you guys know, my son and his mother are going to stay with me until the other house is ready to move into it in March. And then, you know, that's when everything will be set up where I can really spread out in this house. And the crow's nest here in Crow Country, yeah, that studio will actually end up being pretty much the whole fucking house. Okay, so you'll see me in a variety of areas, and we'll be able to really have some more fun with our figs, including the backyard and things like that. Hey, Lunchbox Killer, what's up, buddy? Good to see you here, buddy. Lunchbox Killer 805 has been very active in the chat lately, and it's always great to see it. Guys, I'm slow to learn some of yous right now, but you know, I appreciate every bit of patience that you guys use in trying to communicate with me. There was one K Skills where I didn't see his email for a day or two, and he had reached out via email. What a generous spirit guy. And I just want to say hi to K Skills if he's listening or catches this in the replay and just say, you know, like, yeah, bro, that was a really nice message. Thank you very much. Let's see. Can I rent a room to keep your excess figures in? Short answer, yes. Long answer is well, I mean, there's going to be weird contracts about not picking them up by an exact moment. Contracts which see passage of ownership. I don't know. So guys, Down South 77, of course, 3-star draw, the other side of this channel. He, of course, is going to be probably doing some stuff with Pop Blender. Pop Blender, of course, is kind of like our fourth Battle Brothers, same as Model Misfits and Daredevil Dave. Wherein he'll have stuff going on. And then lastly, as far as this channel goes, I'm playing with formats. When I do my reviews, some reviews are going to be much shorter than others, okay? And some reviews that are longer, they're probably going to have to cap out at a half hour. I really need these formats to get tightened up. It's just part of my personal preference. It's why I don't rewatch my whole library, because it annoys the piss out of me. But I just wanted to take time to say thanks for the great year we've had. This year is going to be a lot more fun, a lot better, and I will try to get to some consistency. And thanks for the patience you've shown the channel. Next week, to recap, we are going to carry on with 1982. We are going to talk about Flash. We're going to talk about the Jump, the G.I. Joe Jump Pack there. And we are going to talk about the Cobra Infantry and Officer. And then we'll jam on any other events that come out on the week. I'm going to close out by talking about that grudge with Australia, right? Like, why do I notice it? Because I have a grudge over Snow Job, who got mentioned earlier when I was saying, let's talk about them. And I'm going to broaden on this. I got a grudge over all of G.I. Joe. Why is it G.I. Joe looked at its allies and said, you know what? We hate you, Australia. That's where all our villains come from. All right. But we looked at England and said, "Hey, Big Ben, come on over. We need you. We need some British appeal." And we bring in others, and there's no friggin' Canadian out there. But actually, when they do the British translation, yeah, now Wetsuit's from Toronto, and you got a couple Canadians. I think even Snowjob was eventually from Toronto. Hasbro, your creative team keeps saying you're going to have to make characters at some point. Can you make a Canadian that makes sense and not make them cliche? Well, you don't need a second Snowjob, but I feel like that's what you would be tempted to do. Just be nice, please. We're here. We've been at your back for a while. You know, we've been in the same fights you guys go into. We're there. Do you see us? That's just the feeling. So when I see that much attention being given to Australia, I'm like, what? Why? Because they also get all the figures before we do. Anyways, guys, what a rant that is. And I make no apologies for my rants. I really don't. That's going to probably close it out today, guys. I would have liked to have kind of had more things to show you today, but without that MMS in my hand, you know, that takes a bit of content. But I did have a good time with this one. We are going to do these line reviews by years, but maybe we'll skip years and not go linear. I'm just going to close out the 82 for next week, and then we'll see what you guys have to say about what we should do next, right? Blame Canada is my best South Park. Yeah, my thought. We need a Cree warrior. I've had a lot of talk about this. Hey, listen. This is important to me because I'm not First Nations, but it is tied to my country's identity as much as it is tied to your US's and everybody else's, right? There's some really important war heroes out there that Patriot Force, that line, could look at. One of the ones. And I mean, I would love it if Valaverse did a dedicated figure to this. I would love it if Hasbro did it. I'd love it if anybody did it, but I feel like it should be Patriot Force. Go look up. It's a long one. Pega Megabo, or any of Canada's lore about them. Pega Megabo is probably the one I would start, chat. Okay, our First Nations in World War I and II were some of the highest kill counts you could ever have out there for some of the most oppressed people, man. And if they don't deserve an action figure, I don't know who does, right? Yeah, we did get the first stinger. I don't know how your other guys made, right? We did get the first stingers. Oh, did we? Did we? Did Australia not beat us to that? Okay. Yeah, all right. We take the win, right? Again, I can make the comparison. You know, even the Globetrotters let the Generals sink a basket just for fun. Would he do some sexy time? Okay. All right, guys. Yeah, we're gonna cut it off at 1:15. So, if anybody has a question about the channel, about 3-star, sorry, about the Backyard Battlefield, about the G.I. Joe collection, or any of that stuff, you can hit it off because I'm gonna count down the clock with those 3 minutes, and I'm gonna ramble inanely until those 3 minutes are done. No, I just let's all just take a minute. Hope that Wraith Mace sees this video and let them know that the guys over here in this chat, we're thinking about you a lot these days and wishing you all the best, buddy. And if Aaron the Toy Enhancer, if you're watching this, you know, good luck on that job in Texas. All right, ramble. I'm told the ramble. Oh, okay, yeah. Hey, listen, more and more people are finding out about the channel, so it means some people are sharing, liking, and showing up on scrolls. I appreciate that. There's also people that I've known a while that are now discovering that I even have a channel, and to them I'd say, hey, how's it going? This is what I do now. What do you do? There you go. This is what I do now. What do you do? I do YouTube about G.I. Joe. There you go. Will I bring breasts on my channel? I will absolutely. In fact, guys, I will remind you. I did put the offer out there, but the offer stands again this year. I do have fun talking to new people and doing interview sessions with them, just getting to know them. But I also realized there's guys like Punk with Toys and Tony over at Legend Series who do very, very amazing jobs of putting the spotlight on you guys. So I do a crow's nest where I just bounce a live off you. Maybe it's your first live, maybe it's not, but it's just us sitting and shooting this shit. It's very much like what Legend Series does, but I do want to learn about you guys, and I want to learn about your perspectives. I want to learn about your favorite figs and things like that. So Mython, you reach out to me, man. I'd love to do a live with you. Anybody in the chat wants to do a live, all I ask is that you have a live accommodating setup. I know mine isn't great right now, My microphone setup is all dependent on what my tablet provides me, my iPad. Once I have my computer set up, I plan on changing that. But in order to go live, your channel has to be set up to do lives. And then you need additional support in StreamYard to link up with me. But it's very simple to get. It's all free. So if anybody's ever interested in doing that, then please, reach out to me. My email is on the channel description. You can reach out to me, or you can hit me up on Insta. You can even send me a Facebook Messenger message if you know how to encrypt my advanced security settings and find my aliases. But yeah, I would love to do lives with guys. It's just a matter of juggling a schedule right now. Okay. To give you an idea, my life is still in flux basically till March, just because I am trying to accommodate my role and how I feel it should be for my family during this transition. That's a job. That's a task I take very seriously, and I'm very happy to do it for them. Okay, but it will create confusion for consistency here. What's this one? I do. Oh shit. All right, guys, that's 115 plus 5. Okay, guys. I am gonna call it out there. I'm gonna leave it on that. Just remind everybody, Crow's Nest Live. If you have an interest, let me know. We can set something up. We can even talk about a topic that you really want to talk about. But I'm gonna call it at this one and say right now I'm thinking Joe Fest next year, guys. That's about as much as I can commit to. I have to review what my situation will be financially and time wise. I think it should be good for both. And I'll bounce on down there again for another session at Joe Fest. I loved that. But if something else comes up more locally here in Canada, I might even go to that. But guys, I do have to get going. I have a Crimson project to finish up on. I'm getting more and more excited as I see the finish line coming. And then it's the Mindbender Lab, and I'll give you a little cheat as I close it out. Here, give you a little cheat on what my Mindbender Lab's gonna possibly look a little like. It's gonna look a little like that, but with more going on. But yeah, we're gonna have that whole concept, and the concept I'm working with, guys, I'll share that as I close it out. The concept my Mindbender Lab is going to be working with the Dark Energon concepts a little bit, but it's really focusing on the concepts that were at play and possibly directly at play with Joss Whedon's movie Cabin in the Woods. And if you have not seen that movie, then go right now, go watch it, because that is probably one of my favorite Joss Whedon movies. And that was exactly where that concept is going to go. All right, guys, that's going to be it. Thank you, everybody who showed up for the live. Thank you, everybody who shows up and watches on the replay. Special thank you for everybody who thought to hit that like button on the way in, out, or during, and who are subscribed to the channel. And if you are considering subscribing and think I might very well do it, you will be just as appreciated very much. We are trying to grow this channel into, something fun for my retirement. That's all it is. So, guys, thanks very much for attending, and I will see you next week as we do another Crow Joe's Live.